Welcome to Passionate and Practical, the art of dreaming, doing, and serving. Today we're going to be talking about creating a mission statement for your home, and I have my dear friend Kaysie with us today, and she is going to help me create a mission statement for my home, and hopefully through this process you all can take some practical tips and take them back to your space and kind of brainstorm and dream and pray over your space and what you want your space to look like, feel like, and ultimately what mission statement you want for your home. So, Kaysie, thanks so much for being on the show again. If you didn't catch it before, we have another episode of her talking about her ministry, Homes and Havens, so make sure to check that out. But today we're going to dive into having a mission statement for your home. Why are you so passionate about this concept?
I think because it changes the way you approach design. I feel like a lot of women, in particular, when it comes to decorating, feel very overwhelmed. It's like, what style, what color palette, it's just overwhelming. And then you get on Pinterest and it's even more overwhelming. And so I feel like the process of, and it takes a little bit of work. It takes some time that actually doesn't involve shopping or Pinteresting or all of that kind of stuff, but it takes a hard work to really nail down what do I want the mission to be of this home, and then let the design, that mission, influence the design. And so it's more, to me, it's more successful, when you create a space that is centered around a mission than it is around a design that would impress HGTV or, something like that. That's really overwhelming for women to that's what you're competing with.
Right.
And so that's, there's a lot of stress and tension, and I feel it when I do consultations with people. I mean, it's like, usually they're like this close away from a breakdown.
And the bar is perfection, right?
Yeah, the bar is perfection.
The magazine.
And, where is Southern Living at Home that needs to show up and take pictures of this? I'm like, that's not the goal. That was never the goal. And so what we're doing is changing the goal, and it's about the mission. And so that's why it's important, and that's where I started with my home is kind of kitchen table time, whether that's with my Bible open or just praying or just dwelling on memories, bad memories and good memories of home, and thinking, what do I want the mission, what do I want this space to mean to me and to the world? So that's why it's important to me, is it simplifies it, and you also hit your goal a lot easier with decor than otherwise, I feel.
So for me personally, the things, if I could tell someone 5 things that I want to be known for, it's hospitality, generosity, encouragement, being bold or fearless, depending on who you say. I mean, sometimes fearless is a bad thing, but for me, I feel like, pretty fearless. I go through life with a pretty bold oomph, I guess you could say.
Passion,
Passion, yeah. And then lastly is joyful. So if I had those kind of as like a reoccurring theme of my life and who I want to be, how could I put those words into a theme and then kind of make it come alive through pictures and art?
Yeah. It's a good question. So let's start with the first one. So what was the first? Hospitality. So where have you ever been that you felt instantly welcomed?
Jamaica.
Okay.
As a country. It's an incredibly hospitable country. As soon as you get off the plane or off your cruise ship, people are like, yeah, man, whatever you want, man, Irie. And they're all about making sure that, and by no means is Jamaica a place of HGTV in a sense, but it's like the jerk stands of the jerk chicken and the local food, and it's so much about the people and not so much about, and the island is beautiful, but I think that the feeling is that you're welcome here, and we're going to do whatever you want to do to make sure you feel loved.
Yeah. So you take that. I mean, that's a perfect mission that a lot of times the decor will just reinforce that, but you could create like this perfect home that has everything arranged the way you want it to and still have someone come in and feel unwelcomed. And so it really does, it goes back, decor can only do so much, the environment and the aesthetic and all of that kind of stuff. And so it really begins with the heart of the woman that is inviting that person in. And so I think that's the perfect place to start, is like, I really want people to feel seen when they walked in. I want them to be fed. I want them to feel like we see you, we want you here. And so that is really kind of the foundation that you can build on, is like, welcome. I want people to feel welcomed. And so as far as logistically, that would look like, is there space for people? You know, like, is the room arranged where people can come in the front door and they're not like instantly all like bottled up, or they don't know where to go, or they don't have a place to sit, or because even room arrangement is a big deal. You know, if everything's kind of bottlenecked in one place, or there's not enough chairs for really the amount of people you have over, then people feel awkward of like, where do I sit? Or, you know, maybe I should leave early, or, you know, so it's that those logistics are very important to making someone feel welcome. It was like they have a bed, they have, you know, like it's that. So, you know, seating arrangements, space at the table, you know, that you have that room for making someone come in and feel like they have a spot. So what's the second thing?
The second thing is generosity, and kind of goes hand in hand with this abundance mentality that there is plenty. I think our God is a God of abundance, and I think you and I share that that core belief. And so just wanting people to know that when they come into our house, like, that we're not going to run out of food, we're not going to run out of drinks, we're not going to be able, we're not going to portion your plate out to where you can't have seconds. So what are some things that I could do to provide that feeling without saying it necessarily?
Yeah, it's showing them. That's really like a demonstration. It's not something they even know they're asking for, kind of a thing. But I think all of us want to know that there's more than enough for us, you know, to go around. And so, to me, from a design standpoint, generosity in a space looks like layers. So it's not just a couch. It's like a couch on a rug with like multiple throw pillows, and then a gallery wall, and then greenery, and then so there's dimension, and so you know that it's not so sterile as like, you know, a college boy put this room together.
Right.
It's like there was so much thought into each layer of this space that it keeps going on. It keeps going on. And so I love walking into homes that people do this really well, because you just, around every corner is something new. You're like, oh my gosh, look at that little, you know, vignette of an arrangement, or just different things. Or when I go stay over at somebody's house and there's like 14 pillows on the bed of just the different layers, you know, that speaks to me abundance. That speaks to me like, this is a generous place. We didn't just give you one pillow. It's like, you're going to have to take them off. Like, you know, there's so much. And so I feel like that is translated through a lot of layers in a space. So that
and
generous
attention to
mentality.
detail.
Exactly.
So how do you balance the kind of minimalist approach to design that is kind of popular right now versus the hoarder version of design, which is we collect and we keep and we put on display everything?
Yeah.
So is it just striking a balance of asking, does this serve a purpose? And
right. It is asking, does this serve a purpose, and is this adding to the space, or is this starting to take away from it? You know, because like what you were saying earlier is like, we want people to feel welcomed here. We want people to feel hospitable. But it's really about you. It's really about the host. That's your mission, and when people come in. And so if it ever starts to distract from that, you know, it's okay when someone walks in, they're like, I love your home, I feel so peaceful or welcomed here. But if it's just like, oh, I've got to move like all of this stuff to sit down, or, you know, just different things, that's when the stuff kind of overwhelms the mission. And so it really, that's honestly the hardest part for me is knowing when enough is enough.
Right.
And really not letting that distract from the heart of the person who owns the home.
Yeah, it reminds me of when women talk about wedding dresses, like, don't let the dress wear you, you're wearing the dress.
Exactly.
So it's like this elegance of beauty and detail, and it's gorgeous and it's grand, but it's not overwhelming to where it takes away from the beauty of the bride.
Exactly.
So
I think
like
too,
that.
it's important for me to really, the litmus test for me is do I enjoy it? Because if I enjoy it, styles, anybody that comes through my home is going to have a different style. I could have a full-blown minimalist come in my home and feel like they're going to have a panic attack. But to me, if I love how I did my mantle, chances are they will too, because I'm proud of it.
Right.
And so they feel that welcome. They feel that, like, I created this so that you would feel welcome here.
That's really great encouragement, because sometimes I have you and then I have another good friend that is really incredible with design. And sometimes I feel insecure when y'all walk into my home because I'm like, oh, I'm not up to par with their standards. But that's such a good reminder, is if I love it, then you'll also love it too, because
really
you know
will.
it brings
Yeah.
me joy. And you'll also love it because you were part of the decoration of my living room. So the next one, so hospitality, generosity, bold. I don't know that anyone would look in my home and see bold, and I don't necessarily know that that's something I want in my home, but that's just a part of me. So we'll skip over that one. And then...
Well, no, I think it's an important part of who you are. I feel like bold doesn't necessarily mean like there's a tropical fruit hanging from your... like, it doesn't have to be harsh. And I feel like people automatically translate bold to overwhelming or like over the top, abrasive. Yeah. And it's... it can be that way used wrongly, but I feel like if you are a bold person, but at your heart is love, I feel like that should manifest itself in a very beautiful way. It could manifest itself in like a powerful saying, on your wall. It's not in purple and pink, but it'll knock your socks off kind of a saying, which I know you already have that on your wall because you showed it to me. But anyway, so it can look like that, or it could look like pops of color. It's controlled color is really how I like to refer to it. When people have like a bolder personality and they're like, please do not put all white in my house. Like, I need color. I need color. And I'm like, we can work with that. Yeah. I mean, because pops of color are powerful and they add dimension, they add layer, but they also communicate the personality of the person that lives there. And so if it makes you happy, a pop of navy or a pop of something else, it doesn't have to be pink or fluorescent, but I think bold is an important part of who you are, and it can reflect in your home in different ways.
Thanks. That's encouraging. Yeah. And that's true, actually, because when I was thinking bold, I was like, oh, we got to skip over this one because I don't have anything in my home that just stands out. But the reality is like the words on that frame are some that speak to my heart. And it's a Mother Teresa quote, and it says, if you want to bring happiness into the world, go home and love your family. And if I could just have a quote to my life, it's that. I think that... and I don't want to get on a soapbox about it, but I think that one of the toughest things our nation is facing right now is that I think that there's politics and there's all these things, but if you could kind of boil it down to one line, I think, well, first it's being faithless and not standing on the rock of God, but if I could really just kind of give an overarching theme, it's fatherless homes. And so I think a lot of our issues as a nation stem from either a father who wasn't there, period, or was abandoning their kids, or abusive, or, you name it. And so I think that for me, I'm just so blessed to have a husband who is home and is present and loves our family so well. And I stand for that, and I know you do too. And so oh, Mother Teresa, she's just so wise.
Right?
She's
just
so
nailed
wise.
It.
So hospitality, encouragement. Oh, encouragement is. Did we already go through that one? Okay, encouragement.
Yeah. So encouragement. Again, that can look like many different things in your home, but it can look like sayings. Words are powerful, and I'm really glad that our culture and the decor is really catching on with that, because you can go to Home Goods, you can go anywhere, and there's these powerful sayings. And my problem is I have too many words. Like in my home, Brian, my husband, is like, please, no more words on the wall. It would just all be artwork that doesn't have any pictures, but it's just powerful words that are encouraging and that I want to remember, that I want people to come in my home and see.
Speaking of words, can you share the story about Rejoice?
Yes. So I have this sign made out of barnwood that has the word rejoice on it. And I did that during one of the darkest seasons of my life. And I was also pregnant and about to have Charlie, my son. And I just kept praying over. I wanted a sign I knew, hang on my mantle. And I was like, what do I want it to say? And the Lord just kept pressing into my heart during that season, rejoice, rejoice. And it wasn't just like a be happy about it, because there wasn't much to be happy about. Right. But to rejoice, you really have to press in deeper to what are the reasons that I have to rejoice. And those things are endless. It really began out of that heart of gratitude. And so had to start counting the things that I was grateful for, even though the list of, bad things or stressful things or was really long at that time. But, I think I was 2 days before having Charlie, and I have just a tiny car and...
In Kaysie fashion.
Yeah, and so I just went to an antique store and bought this, huge slab of barnwood, and the guy was like, when are you due? And I was like, tomorrow. And he loading into my car, and then I came home and super glued all the little letters that I had found, and that's what I sat, for those next several months of nursing and caring for this little one. I would look up and see Rejoice, and even though I hadn't slept very much, or it was stressful, or we couldn't pay the bills, or different things, it was a reminder of there are reasons to be thankful. There are reasons to rejoice. And if you park there, you're going to be happy. You're going to be joyful instead of thinking about all the stuff that isn't going the way you want it to. So,
right. And the word that spoke so much to you, now when other people enter into your space, it can speak to them, and the Holy Spirit can prompt them in ways that look like for them maybe different, but the same word and the same power through that word. That's really beautiful.
It's words that are a call to action. It's not just a passive word. It's something that I feel like what your mission, of encouraging, that word in and of itself is to give someone courage. So they're facing something that they're afraid of, or they're facing something that's bigger than they are. And so if you really want to encourage them, using words in your home decor that really are a call to action that you have to do something about can be really important to add that layer to your home.
That's beautiful. And so lastly, the word joy or joyful is, it's tattooed on my wrist, and it's just something that I felt like several years ago I got the opportunity to be in South Africa doing a missions trip, and it just turned my world upside down because people would describe me as many things, but they wouldn't say joyful. And so God gave a word to a woman who said, God's giving you a new name, and it's joyful. And so he gave that identity to me. It wasn't something that I chose or something that was natural for me, but it was all that much more powerful because without him, I am not joyful. So it's a big part of my story. It's a big part of my testimony. And so I want my home to speak joy, and I want people to feel joy when they're in my home. So I know that just put a lot of pressure on you.
No, it's not, it's something that has to come from you, kind of like the one we started with. It's that hospitable heart that your home could, again, be perfectly put together, perfectly. HGTV could be banging on your door to take pictures, and you could be having a hard day that is, you're dwelling in self-pity or you're negative or whatever, and everybody that comes through that front door is going to feel that. And that's the power we have as women. We literally set the thermostat in our home with our attitudes, with our expressions, with our, just all of that stuff. And so I feel like if that comes from you, it doesn't matter what your home is going to look like at that. You could have diapers and trash. It's just all of that. But
Which I do.
All of us real life, it's never picture perfect.
Yeah.
But that really comes from you. And so to me, also reflecting things that make your home joyful is things that matter to you. What reminds you that my name is joyful, and that is what my identity is. And, whether that's, artifacts from South Africa, whether that just takes you back there, or again, using things that have life in them, that are alive, plants, flowers, fresh flowers on the table, those kind of things really communicate aliveness and joy, that is joy's awake here. And I think there's ways to play on that as well in your home, of just making it a joyful place.
I love it.
Yeah.
It sounds like a great charge and something great to think about. So how do you kind of pray over a space, and how do you use, kind of rewind a little bit. Kaysie runs a ministry called Homes and Havens, and they're all about resurrecting beauty in broken homes. So women that are coming out of some kind of life crisis they meet Kaysie after being in some sort of program. We have ministry partners in Chattanooga, and we get the privilege and opportunity. I'm a board member, so that's why I say we get the the opportunity to step in these women's lives and help make their space beautiful. So a lot of women that are coming out of recovery, they have maybe their mattress is on the floor, maybe they don't even have a mattress, and it's just a dark place that is kind of a reflection of their old self. And so Kaysie comes in and kind of does a consultation and helps kind of revive and bring to life their new space in reflection of who God has now called them to be. So one of the things I love and the story that I hear over and over again is that Kaysie will pray over their space and ask God what scripture verses to put on the walls and things like that. And so one of the things that I love is that I've heard this story over and over again, that Kaysie will put scripture on the wall and the woman will walk in and see her space and she'll say, "That's my verse. That's the verse that God has put in my heart." And whew, it's just so powerful because you know that the Holy Spirit is going before you in this process and knows these women so well that he could put, a verse, whether it's in Hobby Lobby or something, and you just pick it up and you're like, this is the one. So tell us a little bit about how you pick these verses and how you pray over their space and how this is really a Spirit-led ministry.
Yeah, it is spiritual for me. So it's not just about design. It's not just about, putting a space together perfectly. And so I recognize that when I go in their home, it's a battlefield that the enemy has been taking over, and he's been winning. And when we come in to me, and the Spirit in me is saying, today is the day, it's we win. And their homes don't have a heartbeat anymore. We literally are praying for a resurrection because the memories, the darkness, the brokenness that is in that space there's no way I could change that on my own. And so it's really inviting God into that process and say, God, can you resurrect this home to life? Because it's dead. There's no heartbeat. There's no pulse. It's been dead for a long time. We need a resurrection here. Yeah. And how he does, since the beginning of time, he breathes life into spaces, breathes life into the earth that we live in now, and it became alive, and it became what it is today. And so I think for me, going into that home and praying, God, please show up here. We need a miracle, and I tell people all the time, God goes shopping with me because, I don't know these women. These aren't like friends of mine that I've known since childhood. I've met them one time. I meet them and they open their front door. I say, "Hey, my name is Kaysie. I'm so glad that you invited me here. Can we look around, talk about your home?" That is literally the interaction. It's about 30 minutes long that I know this girl. And sometimes I know her story, sometimes I don't. It's just kind of like I've trusted the process and, they need these things. And so I'm not like, "So what brought you here today?" Or, I'm not there for a counseling session. I'm just there to serve the woman in this capacity. And so I have no idea what she likes. I have no idea. And so it's very overwhelming at times to go shopping and be like, does she like purple? Does she like blue? Like, I don't know, but I know he knows her. He was there from the moment she was conceived to even the darkest chapters that she wished were written over her life, but he was there at the resurrection. He was there. And so he's a witness to her life, and I wasn't. And so it's really trusting him to show up and give me those insights into, and I can't explain it. And sometimes I don't even know if I've hit the mark. It's kind of like I pick up stuff or, for one girl, it was like I had gotten everything in the shopping cart, was rolling to check out, and there was a sign that had a verse on it. And I was like, I had a ton of stuff, and I was like, I know that I have enough to fix her room, but I don't know why. And I just picked it up, and I was like, it was just kind of casually. And that was the verse. She walked in, and she saw the whole space, but then she saw that verse on the wall, and she was like, "How did you know?" Like that, the day I went into rehab, or the day I went, that was the verse he gave me. That was like, "You're going to survive this." Yeah. And I was like, he knew I did not, that's something that we can help convince her about, like, he did this for you. Like, it wasn't me. I don't know you. Like, I was just an instrument in this process, but he's the one that made a place for you here. He's the one that put this artwork on the wall. And, and because we are nonprofit and we do rely on donors, it really is like every home is an act of God to get it there, to get the money. And it isn't about me. It's about him, and it's about the people that believe in this mission, you know, of saying, he hand wove this little nest for you, and he loves you so much. He knew that verse would speak to you. I had no idea. He does. And so it's convincing, you know, for them. So it's just amazing.
Moral of the story is, so when I go shopping and I'm trying to figure out scripture to put on my wall,
right,
I just pray that Jesus would join me in the shopping. And that sounds silly, but I think that God really asks us to invite him into every area of our life. So why not invite him into that process? That's really beautiful. So how has home been a refuge in hard times for you? And I know that we kind of touch on that in the previous episode, so we'll kind of allot to that. But how can we, when we're thinking about putting kind of a mission statement over our home and claiming this truth over our home, how do we live into that, even if it seems like it's too... I was just actually listening to a podcast this morning, and instead of a checklist of things that they want to accomplish, they speak as though it's already happened.
Oh, yeah.
So how can a mission statement possibly speak refuge and restoration and life and light, even though it may not feel that way in the process of creating this mission statement?
Yeah. I mean, I think it begins with, you know, a mission statement is like, this is what we do. Like, this is what we're doing. And so, you know, for my personal mission statement in my home, I mean, they're really prayers. Let this home be this. Let this home be this. And so it is a declaration, but it's also a prayer, because I know that I'm not able to pull this off, you know, by myself. Kaysie is not able to make every person feel like they're protected and that they're in a safe and secure place, that they're in a holy place, that they're in a creative place. Like, I'm not able to perform all of that. I'm just one person that is severely flawed, but God can. And so it's really, again, an invitation of like, God, let this home be that, you know, whatever your mission statement is. And so it does begin there, I feel like, of viewing your home the way you want it to be instead of what it is. Because, I mean, when I wrote my mission statement, my life was a full-blown disaster. It was the messiest season. And that's really what led me to begin chipping away at this disaster and say, I'm going to create order here. I'm going to create beauty here.
And so what is the mission statement for your home? It's
a bunch of things. I have them, so, you know, the paint samples that you can get at Lowe's or whatever, I have them all hanging on a wall, and I wrote out specific words that, you know, one of them is, I want this place to be a holy place. I want this place to be a healing place. I want people to feel welcome, to feel seen, that the sacred would be protected here, that, you know, there's just certain things that... in my story, you know, one of them, that chains would break here. You know, that this place would be a place of freedom, that brokenness could be able to be pulled into the light and seen for what it is, and that grace would cover that, and chains would be broken. And so that's part of what I want my home to be. And it has been. I mean, there's been life-changing conversations happen around my kitchen table,
And just to speak to that a little bit, based on someone who may be listening that is like, wow, that's super deep, that's super powerful, I'm not there,
right.
and maybe it's a little more surface level. I just need you to know that Kaysie has been through the trenches, and her story is full of crisis and lots of brokenness and many battles with the enemy. So if you really want a mission statement like that, then you have got to be willing to throw your hands in the air and say, God, whatever your will be done in my life, and you will face its inevitable some challenges in order to get to a place of that. And I have to be completely transparent when I say this. Right now in my walk with God, I'm kind of at a place where I look at you as a dear friend and someone that I serve with in ministry, and I say, you know what, how could I have faith like Kaysie? And I look up to you, and not in an idolizing way, but I just look to you and I say, how can I have faith like Kaysie? But then on the other hand, I'm not willing to pray that prayer. And there's something in me right now in this current season that I'm holding on to, this comfort. I'm holding on to this charmed life. I'm holding on to, I know where my next meal is coming from. And I'm not totally relying on God to meet my every need. And so just that's something that I kind of feel the Holy Spirit prompting. Like if you want that kind of faith, you've got to be willing to go through some stuff. So I just want to encourage listeners that if you're not there and your mission statement is not, it doesn't have that kind of depth, that is okay. Because I'm not there either. And but there has to be, it is a transaction with God saying like my life for yours, and I will trade all of this comfort and all of this contentment and all of this, you name it, basically safety for your will. And so I'm super encouraged by your story, and just so thankful for you to be a person in my life that I can look to, and I know that that's overwhelming to you because you just have so many people looking to you to say, like, wow, how did you get where you are? But I just want to encourage you and thank you for just the vulnerability and the willingness to faithfully walk through all that you walked through. So thanks for being who you are. And unfortunately, we've got to wrap up. So if you could just maybe, if there was like a line or a verse or something that maybe comes to your mind, because we're talking about my home. So if you were to say something that would come to you in reference to my home, what would you say, and what charge would you give me that this is you, this is who you are, or
I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's a very sacred territory. But as your friend and someone who sees you, has been in your home, and I feel like you so want life to flourish in your home. And I think that's really what it comes down to for you is that this place would be a place where life would flourish and grow and produce fruit and empower. And I think that's such a necessary and vital thing in our culture. We need homes like yours that invite us in and really just feed our souls and feed our bodies and all of the above, and just like send us out. And, I think your home is a place where life can flourish. And so, but I'm sure there's so much more depth, and this is just, my observations as a friend. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Kaysie is just full of wisdom and full of beauty and grace and faith. So please follow her in her journey at Homes and Havens. It's on Instagram, Facebook. You can go to homesandhavens.com to follow her journey and kind of keep up with what God is doing in her life and in the ministry. So as always, you are infinitely valuable. You are created with unique gifts, talents, and skills that God has placed in you and only you. You are put on this earth for a purpose that only you can fulfill, and He's going to give you the tools. Lean into Him and go and be His hands and feet to this broken world. Thanks so much for joining, and have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch. If this message has encouraged you, then please click to subscribe and share with a friend who may be inspired by the message. Also, if you have an event coming up and you're looking for a speaker, click the link below to get in touch with me.